Hello and welcome to the Amateur Football Podcast. I have a very special guest. I have Bobby Dean on the show. How you doing, sir?
I'm not too bad. You all right?
Good stuff. And it just says right there that you're running to be an MP for Cashel and Wallington. Could you go into that a little bit more?
Yeah, so Carshalton and Wallington is one of the parliamentary seats we've got in the London Borough of Sutton. It's basically the eastern half of the borough. We don't know when the general election will be, probably sometime next year, but when it comes, I'll be the candidate for the Lib Dems. It's a super marginal seat, so we've got high hopes, but taking nothing for granted, got to keep working hard.
Also, you are a mental health champion as well. Could you elaborate in terms of what you do?
Yeah, so I'm a local councillor at the moment, and one of the briefs I've got at Sutton Council is to be the mental health champion. So it just means keeping an eye out for all the sort of policy developments in mental health and trying to progress mental health in our borough as well. So I'm working on something called Be Well Hubs at the moment, which is trying to roll out sort of trained mental health people throughout the borough so that you're never more than 10 minutes away from somebody who knows where to point you in the right direction.
Could you give me and also the other viewers 3 tips to improve our mental and physical well-being?
I think the first tip is that it's finding your own sort of well-being piece, because for me, and we're going to talk about this, it's always been sport, it's always been football, that's been my release. But for other people, it'll be different things. My wife, she's in a choir, that's how she goes and gets a escape from the world every week. I think you just got to find something that when you're doing it, you don't think about anything else. And I think that's key to get a release from your daily stresses. So yeah, top thing, find the thing that works for you. Second thing, I think, is talking and conversations. I know it's become a bit cliched recently about talking conversation, but there's one thing talking about talking and another thing actually talking, right? I mean, how many of us know that it's right that we should talk, but don't actually do it with our friends and even our family? We struggle to do it. So talking is key. And third, and I think it's important, is if you are really struggling and it's more than just a well-being issue, you need to go seek help. You need to go make sure you speak to your GP or speak to somebody you trust about potentially getting further help if you need therapies or medication. There's no shame in that. If you're in that place, you need to go and get it. And there is still too much stigma at the moment, I think, in going to that next step. There's kind of a little bit more public conversation about how we can talk about our mental health, but people still see it as another barrier to go and get sort of professional medical help. And so if you are in that place where it's persistent and it's not temporary and it is affecting your life in negative ways, you need to go get proper help.
Talking about help and like a change of environment. At 15, you like started to live with your grandparents. How was that change from living with your parents? And again, if you could talk about why you decided to live with your grandparents.
Yeah, I mean, in short, I had a bit of a family breakdown. My parents had me quite young, and it was always quite tough, right, growing up, to be honest. And it come to a head when I hit my teens, and as I think it does in lots of households. And the best thing for me at that time was to move out of the household. So I moved in. I was grateful to have my grandparents there that could take me on. It's something called kinship care, is a term that I've learned in recent years, which is when family takes on family. It's a bit under recognised. Lots of people are familiar with like the formal care system and fostering. But yeah, I was in kinship care without knowing it, I suppose. And yeah, I was really grateful to them to give me a different environment and put me on the right track. At the time, obviously, I thought nothing of it. I just thought this was a good thing, that I'm in a more peaceful household and so on. But later on in my life, I realised it was affecting me in different ways. I mean, being separated from your parents is a trauma. Um, just for context, I didn't, there wasn't much engagement with my parents for a long time. But in my 20s, it was actually getting formal therapy that helped me come out on the other side of it. And I have a good relationship with my parents now. I got married earlier this year, and they were both there on the top table with me. But it's not something I would have foreseen 10 years ago, but that happened. So yeah, I think major life experience like that, particularly when you're young, can hold on to you and affect you in lots of ways long into your life. And I only really sort of wised up to that in the middle of my 20s and how it was affecting me. But at the time, yeah, you don't know these things.
Can you remember your first day of therapy and literally how were you feeling and when you kind of came out of the therapy session, what was your initial feeling and emotion?
Skepticism. I think I went in with skepticism, and I think I probably went in with skepticism for the first few, feeling like what's actually happening here. I had the impression that you go into therapy and you say stuff to them, and they go, right, well, here's where you're going wrong, and here's where you should fix this, and actually you should do that now, and actually no, that was wrong, and you do this, and by the way, have you thought about this? And it's not really like that. It's more them guiding you through your own thoughts. And so at first, I was getting impatient with it, thinking this person's doing nothing. But then you realize that they're highly skilled in making you come to terms with your own thoughts and process your own thoughts in your own way. And it clicked after I don't know how many sessions, but it clicked over time rather than in the moment. My first session, I come up hugely skeptical. So I'd say if anybody does start that process, you've got to be persistent with it.
What was the best piece of advice anyone has given you, and also the worst?
Oh, that's tough. When it comes to advice, I always think back to my granddad or my pops, the one I lived with, and he always said, "Work hard, play hard," and I think that helped. So I've always recognised the needing the balance, that you burn yourself out otherwise if you're working too much. I think I've always been one of these people who quite enjoyed work, get distracted by it, kind of get really focused, kind of get a big kick out of working hard, but needing that space to let off. So right now, running for parliament, there's loads of pressures on my diary all the time. There's always more I can do. There's always another door I can knock on, and so on. But I have carved out those Saturday afternoons for me to play football, and that's kind of my team know that. And it looks a bit silly in the diary sometimes, like, oh, he's got football, so it feels trivial. But no, I've kept that. That's my thing. So I've kept that in there. So work hard, but make room for play. I'd say best one. Worst advice. Well, I kind of don't like a lot of these sort of Instagramish cliches at the moment. I'm not sure I'm going to pick on one, but where we've almost got this kind of toxic positivity going on right now, where it's like everything is a good thing and everything's a well-being thing, and um, you know, bad behaviors are getting rewarded as just being me, and I'm going to be me. And I think that's not great advice, because sometimes you are the problem, right? Sometimes you do need to improve as a person, and just kind of like excusing yourself of all your own behaviors is not a healthy bit of advice. So yeah, I am what I am is also probably a bit of bad advice. Have a look at yourself. You can be proud of who you are, but also you might need to change. So be open to that.
And we like said something off air about that shirt. I'm not too happy about that shirt, you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy this year. I don't know if I would have worn it the last 2, 3 years, because it's not been a happy time being a Spurs fan. But we're back. We're back. So as football always rewards you, you always get your chance to say we're back. So yeah.
Sometimes we can talk about mental health or mental well-being as a kind of trending topic, or as a kind of cliche. And for yourself, running for Cashel and Wallington, there has to be an element of sacrifice. There's got to be an element where you are going to push your body and push your mind through certain levels. What is that kind of distinctive line where we kind of have to talk about sacrifice and hard work, but also talk about protecting our mental and physical well-being?
I'm still learning it, to be honest. I think probably some of my background has made me quite resilient and well suited to politics, because I can manage my emotions because I've been through stuff, and there's not a lot of things that will bother me. So when you're getting all these sort of attacks from the opposition, and some of it can be quite personal, I can brush that off, and I think that probably helps. But I'm still learning. I've been a candidate for 2 years. It's quite a long time to be a candidate. Actually, a lot of people were selected closer to the election, and in that 2 years, I've changed how I've dealt with things already. In terms of how I engage with criticism. I've not actually posted anything on social media since the spring. I kind of took myself off of social media for a while. I mean, I've been talking to my team about that, and I am going to make a comeback soon, because I realise that there are some people who expect to be kept up to date what I'm doing online, and can't just rely on me turning up on their doorstep or delivering leaflet through the door. So I think, like, yeah, if I want to be a good MP, I do need to communicate online too. But I took myself out of that space for a while because I just didn't think it was healthy as well. So yeah, I'm still kind of finding my way through how to manage politics. Obviously, the big thing is being in kind of like the local public eye. So I have started to get recognised down the pubs, or when I'm out in the park with my dog, and you have to be prepared for the fact that even if I was just like this morning, I was walking my dog and somebody stopped me for a chat. I don't mind that, but that you've got that in your life now, and you have to manage that as well. So yeah, it's still a learning process, but I am consciously trying to think about how it impacts me. And yeah, other sacrifices. I mean, like even like family planning. Me and my wife have been together a long time, but we decided that we're going to put kids off until after the election, no matter what happens to the election, win or lose. But just bringing a baby into this situation right now, where it's going to be high stress in the next year of my life, would be too much. So I think so, there's sacrifice like that where we've actually changed our family plans for the sake of this. So yeah, it's a lot.
Do you like ever take work home with you, good or bad?
That's a difficult question to answer because work is life now. Like when you're going for this, it's not really a job. There's not really an end to it. Like it's more of a lifestyle choice. I'm kind of always turned on a bit. Really, I've always, there's always. There's things like the inbox that I can close. I can shut down the laptop and not look at emails, but there's no real time limit to when I might be involved. There's evening events, there's daytime events. There's always stuff to attend at the weekend. So but I kind of enjoy it, right? You wouldn't do this unless you're a people person. I enjoy speaking to people. So none of these things are hardships for me. All these things are things I enjoy. But I feel like this role isn't really a job. It's more of a vocation, a lifestyle thing. It's kind of always happening. The weekends. Luckily, my wife is like very understanding. She's a local councillor as well, actually, and she's involved in politics and she gets it. But she doesn't mind, us going to the community event at the weekend. We both enjoy doing that community event, but also there in the capacity that I am in. So yeah, it's all good. I don't feel like I'm in a bad place with it. I feel like I'm in a good place with it. I feel really comfortable with my life at the moment. I think I'm striking the balance right. I'm enjoying it. So yeah, I recognise there are a lot of pressures. I think a lot of it shouldn't be there because I think it might be putting some other people off getting into politics. But I'm in a good place with it.
Mm. And like you don't look a day over 12. So I mean, she went when we met, and it was very poignant for me how like much you wanted to actually meet people, and it can, and again, I'm just guessing that your team and your network feel exactly the same.
Yeah. So for me, speaking to people directly is the big thing. Like I said earlier, I cut off social media because I thought it was clouding my head. I think only particular people tend to engage in some of the political discussions online, and I want to make sure that I'm like staying in touch with everybody in the community, really. So going door to door is something I do most days of the week. Hour here, hour there, but I probably go out, I don't know how many times a week, 5 or 6 times a week, often, and all over the borough as well, right? So all over the constituency, so that you just meeting different people all the time, and I find that fascinating. It's like you're just getting little insights into everybody's worlds and what they care about, and you find out new things sometimes, and that you can go away and work on them. So that's the best way, really. Obviously, you read newspaper articles, you watch the news, there's papers and stuff you can read, but none of it is as real as just meeting people. And yeah, that's kind of one of the things I enjoy the most, really, about it. Just getting to meet new people all the time, like you coming up to me in the street that time when I was knocking your road. So yeah.
And you just mentioned something about caring about what other people do. Apart from politics and football, what else do you care about?
Well, I suppose most of my career has been in international development, so working with sort of charities overseas on poverty, health, education, stuff like that. So that's a big passion of mine. I set up my own business in 2017 to basically work with charities in that area, and I still do bits of that now because you're not paid to be the candidate. So this is how I still earn my income. So yeah, that's another passion of mine. Particularly, yeah, I think the world's problems are our problems as well. Actually, my wife is in the same sector. That's where we met. She works for Save the Children. She's actually in Nepal right now working on a project. So it's just me and the dog at the moment at home. We lived overseas together for a while in Uganda. So yeah, that's a big passion point of mine. I really think that UK has to sort of take responsibility for the world it lives in as well. So kind of global issues are a big thing for me as well as just the sort of local stuff.
Mm. So let's talk about football. So you play for a local team?
Yeah, I played for Carl Shelton, so not athletic, which have got a stadium, but Carl Shelton Football Club. I think they're probably older actually. They're in Benton Park, by sharing the ground with the cricket club.
Mm.
I'm trying to remember what it says on the badge. I think it's 1898. So they've been going a long time.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, I've been playing for them for the last couple of years. I love it. Like I said, it's my release. We're in the Southern Amateur League on a Saturday, if you know it. Last couple of years been quite successful. We won the cup last year. We got promoted last year, but the year before we won the league as well. So it's two successive promotions. We're doing all right. I'm enjoying
Mm.
it. It's good.
and literally, how like important is that kind of banter and that tribal feeling when you kind of come together before, during, and after a game?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, like I say that I love the Saturday afternoons, but it ain't just about the 90 minutes, is it? It's about turning up before, seeing people, being in a completely different environment. Um, and everyone's left their baggage home. Everyone comes to the game just to meet their mates and play football. Afterwards, in the clubhouse bar afterwards, it's just that is the release. It's not just the minutes on the field; it's the whole thing, isn't it? That is the release that I love. And watching too is the same thing. You don't just go to watch the game; you go for the before and the after as well with people. So yeah, love it. It's the best thing, and it's probably like the only thing I talk about with my mates. Right, like all my closest mates I've known basically through football. And the only thing we ever talk about in our WhatsApp groups and stuff is football. I literally don't know what we would talk about if we didn't have football. It sometimes feels like it's the only thing keeping us together. Like all these years, we're arguing about a VAR decision at the weekend for 2 days. Like that's how I stay in touch with my friends. And I think it's true for a lot of blokes, right? That there's always jokes about like blokes meeting up and you don't have a clue what's actually going in their life sometimes because you've just chatted about football. But it's addictive. It's what we do.
Mm. And talking about men and their feelings and like leaving baggage or stresses at at home, how important is it for us men to kind of come together and also share our like, problems, and also share our kind of high high notes as well? Because again, I don't want to talk about mental well-being as just a kind of Debbie Downer, or kind of like a kind of negative thing, because there are some positives as well that we can talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it doesn't happen enough on the negative side, but I do definitely see it on the positive side. Like, first people to praise stuff like if someone's had children or got grades at university or got a new job. There's always that sort of first congratulations from that network. I think that's good. Um, I think that the very least that what football does is give you that network that you can rely on, because I think otherwise uh, I don't know. From my experience, men can be quite insular. They've got their work and their work networks, and they might have their family, but then they don't just go hang out to hang out for a lot of the time. Sake. So having football gives you that network to know that you could maybe speak to somebody. I think people need to do it more. But yeah, I think it is beneficial to have that network that you know is there as well.
Mm, mm. Yeah, and I'd like love to know your short to medium plan.
I mean, a lot hinges on when this election is called for me. I mean, this is the thing. Like, we don't have a date to work towards. It's all up to the prime minister. So my life is in kind of suspended animation until it happens. We think it could be next May. There's other rumours it could be in the autumn. It could be any point in 2024. So my one sort of short term goal is the election and hopefully winning. Um, if I win, then that's the next few years of my life up to 2028, I guess, or 2029, sorted, because I'll be an MP and I'll be working on what I can in Parliament to try and make people's lives better. If I don't, then obviously I've got a big decision about how I want to carry on in the role or not. I mean, it might depend a bit on the manner of the defeat. I mean, I'm local. I live here. I'm not going to be moving away anytime soon. So there's lots of there's lots of reasons why I would stay on actually and try and win it the next time, because actually that's what my predecessor did. A guy called Tom Brake was the MP for 22 years, but he didn't win on his first run. He won on his second, and I guess it gets him a chance to build up his personal name, be doing stuff for people on a local level, and eventually win the trust of people. So yeah, but you don't know how you're going to feel until that moment passes. So yeah, unfortunately for me, my short and medium term plans are up in the air until I know the outcome of this election. But either way, I'm probably going to be trying to stay involved in social change in some way. I've done it with my business. I'm working in international development. I've obviously committed myself as a local councillor. I'm running to be an MP locally. I would stay involved. It's just how, like, it's just in what capacity I would do that in.
Why is South London such an amazing place? And actually, when I say South London, I'm talking Cashel, Wallington, Croydon, Sutton. Like, why is it such an amazing place to actually live?
Yeah, I don't know. I've lived in the south of London since I was 18 now. So I'm from Essex originally, but moved up to South London. My mum's side are from South London. They're from Croydon, so kind of moved back really. But I don't know. It is special, isn't it? And you really feel intense rivalry with like sort of north of the water as well, which is, I think.
Are you not like, it's crazy because I'm like originally from like Leeds, and I didn't realize that there was a north-south divide in London. I didn't get it until I moved. I'm like, I've always lived south of the river, but I totally
It's
understand.
a little bit east v south as well, isn't it? It's a bit more sort of east v south as well, where people further. I mean, I used to go out east quite a lot in sort of Shoreditch, Hackney in that way,
Yeah,
but you just kind of feel like south is more special. We've got more green space for a start.
100%.
It's a bit more affordable. I mean, everyone gets priced out north of the water as well, I think. And there's just that sort of that real mix of people, right? As well, we've got such diversity in South London. Brixton, Croydon, Lewisham, Lambeth, and Sutton as well. All of these places are pretty diverse. So then you get with that everything that comes with it: the mix of cultures, the mix of food, the mix of celebrations. Like it's a special place. I've lived in lots of places over the years, but South London is a special place.
When we kind of talking about like the kind of current climate right now with housing, with cost of living, with also sometimes I see a detachment of the community. If you were going to be elected, what would you do to kind of rectify those issues?
Yeah, well, you mentioned housing there, and I think it's at the core of a lot of our problems in society at the moment. We through a lack of progress, basically in building homes in the last 20 to 30 years, we've ended up in a situation where we're back to Victorian times, which means that you can own a house if your parents did, and everybody else's opportunity is pretty much cut off. Now there are exceptions to that rule, but not many, unless you're given direct support or you inherit a house. You pretty much got no chance, because in the 90s it was something like 3 or 4 times your income, the average price of a home. Now it's 7 or 8 times, right? And people talk about interest rates and saying, well, the interest rates were even higher in the 90s. Yeah, but it was on a much smaller value of homes, so it's still affordable to people. And the rental market as well wasn't as congested 30 years ago. You had a lot more council homes taking the pressure off of the rental market. We've lost over 1 million council homes in the last 20, 30 years. What that means is all those people that should be in council accommodation, more affordable accommodation, are squeezed into the rental market, making it even more overheated. And so the prices are rocketing to the point where nobody can save. In fact, people can barely survive at the moment with the rents on top of the energy bills and food bills and everything else, let alone save to own a home. So I think housing is at the crux of a lot of our issues. That if we fix that problem, then a lot of other social ills will be healed. And I'm very passionate about that. One thing I do want to say is that people think that building more homes means that we need to have all the infrastructure to come with it, and to an extent they're right. National government does need to step up and invest in things like our NHS and our schools. But people forget as well that an awful lot of our housing crisis at the moment is because people are overcrowded. So it's not necessarily more people; it's people living in more comfortable conditions. I mean, in my 20s, it was normal to share a house with 5, 6 other people with no living room. Completely normal, because that house has been converted. So one house has been converted into something where 6 people live. and you just have a bedroom and you all share a bathroom and nobody's got a front room anymore, that's normal, right? You've also got families massively over crowding into like 1 bedroom flats, 2 bedroom flats, not to speak of emergency accommodation. So yeah, building new houses and having more spaces for people to live in doesn't necessarily mean more people arriving in your area. It just means that people are living more comfortably and more suitably, really, as well. So yeah, quite big on housing as a solution to a lot of our problems, really. And I think the key is building more, and also within that, making sure that well, not majority, but a good sort of 40-50% of what we build needs to be council homes, because we sold them all off under right to buy, which is a fair aspirational policy. That's fine. You know, people want to own a home. That's good, but we didn't replace the stock, and that's where the problem's been. The St Helier estate, you know, in our area, you know, that used to be one of the largest council estates in Europe. It's not anymore. Not because we knocked it down, but because we've sold it off, and we have, and all those council homes aren't available to us anymore. So here in Sutton, we've got thousands and thousands of people on the waiting list, and they all get so frustrated with us as a council as to why they're not being housed yet, why they're still in emergency accommodation. There's simply not the units there. They haven't been built. So that's what we need to do. We need to get building. We need to, in particular, get building council houses.
You mentioned about education in like schools briefly. We as adults, we can just about navigate. There's like still a lot of education that I still have to, learn, and I'm kind of trying to invest my own kind of knowledge into things that I just don't know about. It's the next generation, it's the younger generation, it's kind of kids who are 8, 9, 10, 11, or even in their teens that are going to be more affected, right, with everything that's going on.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and I'd say this generation, my generation, are being impacted now, and the next generation will be impacted further. This is a slow, gradual process, but we used to have a thing in human history where each generation lived better off than their parents, and I think that is just starting to turn now, where actually the previous generation or so will have it better than their kids in terms of access to being to jobs, to the quality of those jobs, the pay and the conditions of those jobs, the security of those jobs, but also the quality of their housing, the ability to purchase housing as opposed to renting it. All those things seem to be going backwards just about now. So it's just a warning shot, I think, to everybody that like things don't only get better. Sometimes they get worse, and we need to now turn the tide on that. Also this generation of kids have lived through schooling during a pandemic as well, and I think we can't forget that how impactful that's been. And actually, we need special attention on that generation that's gone through homeschooling for a long period, and reduced social skills because they were separated from their friends for so long. We actually need additional investment, not just like to get us back to where we were, but to go beyond to support those children in particular. There was actually a report done about a year or so into the pandemic by somebody who said that the catch-up funding we need for education is about 15 billion, and I think the government come out and pledged, like, I don't know, it was like 10% of that. It wasn't enough, and so things like that we need to fix.
And if like people want to contact you or kind of get to know you a little bit more, how can they do that?
Yeah, so my email address, and they do all come through to me, is info@bobbydean.co.uk. It's probably the simplest way, just to drop me an email. I've also got an office opposite Carshalton College in Rive Green on Nightingale Road. Between 10 and 6, people can drop in there and make appointments with me and see me directly. And all the usual ways. suttonlibdems.org.uk is the website. You can find out more about me there, things I've been saying. And I suppose I should say social media. I need to get back onto social media. But if you type Bobby Dean onto Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, I've got profiles. They're going to start firing again soon. So I'm on all those as well.
Oh, great stuff, great stuff. And literally all of the details will be in the description. Something I didn't ask you, what position do you play?
I'm a right back. Been a right back for a very long time. There was a period where I was right wing back under a back three system. And the other week, for the first time in my life, in 11 side, I played CDM. And I absolutely loved it, actually, just because I don't get to like be in the middle of it that often. But I'm a right back. Yeah, I've been a right back for some time.
So literally, would you compare yourself to a Gary Neville or like someone from from like Spurs' current team or past?
I don't know. Probably more Emerson Royale than Pedro Porro. Like
Liability.
bit more workhorsey than delivering Kevin De Bruyne balls into Son's feet. Yeah, yeah. It used to have a bit of pace, but it's declined. But that's what happens when your knees and your hips or whatever start going in your 30s. But I think I'm probably still regarded as legs in this team because most people in my team are older than me. I'm one of the youngest people in my team actually. So I'm 33, but a lot of people are older. So I've managed to somehow maintain some legs credibility just by being one of the younger people in my age group. But yeah, right back. Hard working right back.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I love that.